Actually, yeah, we can begin now. Luke, please present your guest. Advertising in 2022 mobile gaming panel is starting.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Luke Stapley. I'm the marketing director at Cocos. Cocos is the most popular open source game engine company in the world. And I want to introduce you to some really interesting people that we're going to be talking about advertising with. First off, I'd like to give everybody a chance to introduce themselves and their company. First off is Nicholas Legano, CEO at Scuti. How are you doing today, Nicholas?
I'm doing great, thank you. Just by way of introduction, I've been in the video gaming industry for about 22 years. I started with Blizzard, worked on World of Warcraft, the Diablo franchise, worked with the Valve guys on Counter-Strike, Half-Life 2 launch, then was the general manager of Universal Interactive, where we made all theatrical-based games, which included Lord of the Rings, Chronicles of Riddick, Spyro the Dragon, Crash Bandicoot. And then in 2004, invented in-game advertising with a company called Massive. And that was later acquired by Microsoft. And today, 18 years later, I've launched a new endeavor, which is basically to help game makers monetize and retain much better than what they have in the past, especially hyper games, to basically monetize and retain their players better through a platform called Scuti. And Scuti is also an advertising outlet for them as well. And the best part of it, it's free to game makers. So looking forward to joining this conference today.
Well, it's great to have such an expert here to give us some information from the history point of view and telling us everything that's been going on. We also have Oguz Silahtar, or Slaughter, I believe. Slaughter, potato.
Silahtar. Yeah.
From
Hello.
UAhero. How are you doing today, Oz?
I'm good, thank you. It's very nice to hear actually Nicholas before. So I'm much newer to the gaming industry. Only I would say about 2 years that we focused on UAhero, which is a marketing campaign management platform using AI and machine learning. And before that, we used to do AI consulting. So we did different things like LTV predictions, bots for games with reinforcement learning, churn prediction, different mid-budget optimization. So finally, 2 years ago, we decided let's focus on this product, and we are focused on the gaming industry. And since then, that's what we've been doing.
Well, it's great. Now we have someone. So we have someone old and we have someone new in the industry. That's great. And I'm going to guess that Lynn, you've been here for a little bit longer. This is Linh Nguyen from AdOne. It's great to talk to you.
Yeah, right. Hi everyone. I'm Linh, and I am the publishing manager from AdOne. We are a earlier small company from Vietnam, and we try to have people. Try to have indie team or the big team from all over the world to publish their game. We also have the in-house team, and we so early on the market, but we believe that we will grow a lot much. Thank you.
Oh, that's great. How long have you been in the industry for?
Our company is about 1 year ago we started.
Oh, okay. So I guess I'll be the middle guy. I've been in the industry for about 10 years. So
wow.
We'll be we're going to be working on let's go ahead and let's talk to Nicholas first, since you're the expert here. What would you say as we're talking a lot about hyper casual games, but also casual games? Let's say we just got a brand new game and the game just came out and we're excited about it and we're going to do our advertising for it. What would you say would be the best thing to do to start your campaign for the new game today?
I think, so I'm also a classically trained marketer. I used to run Fortune 500 CPG companies well before I got into video games. So I'm really the old guy here. So I'm really traditional in my approach. For me, it always sets out to understand what your objectives are. What are your goals, right? What are you trying to achieve with your game? And in doing so, you've always got to establish who's your audience, right? Who am I marketing this game to? Who's most likely to play it, for example? Then you need to understand where those, I'm going to do some analogies today about fishing, right? Even though I don't fish, right? I think they're always good analogies to have. So it's always good to know where the fish are swimming, right? So those are just some of the things that you need to understand. What are your objectives? What are your goals? You've got to be able to, know where those fish are swimming, what kind of bait that you need, right? In other words, when I say bait, I'm talking about what is the messaging, what is the offer, what is the promotion. If it's a product, there's no difference to marketing bottled water, which I did. I used to market Evian and Pepsi, etc., versus marketing a game. It's the same thing. What are you going to capitalize your marketing on? Is it because it's a beautiful game and you want to show off, the visuals, the environments, etc.? It's all about the messaging. How do I attract the attention of the player so that they can abandon the games that they're playing today and adopt mine? No one plays just one game, or some people do. Most people play a variety of games. So we want to know what they're playing, how they're finding out about their games. Do you have the right screenshots, demos? What kind of pole are you using, or what kind of line are you using to pull in your fish, right? So all of that is really important. And then understanding the competitive environment. You don't want to be fishing where people are fishing with nets. And if you've got a rod, right, it makes no sense unless you're going to be spending big dollars. That's why with mobile games, I see a lot of the ways in which they're marketed. There's a lot of things that I would never do that I see today within the industry. Maybe I'm old fashioned, but I think it's all about mapping out exactly what you want to do, what your objectives are, what your budget is. You need to know what your budget is, how you're monetizing your game. A lot of game makers, sort of leave the monetization till later, but we can talk about that some other time. But, it's all about understanding what are you trying to get out of it, and then putting together the right vehicles, the publicity, the social plan. Everything has to work harmoniously. That's why I always say start with a plan. That was long-winded.
Yeah, a very long-winded version of stick to a plan.
Yeah.
But no, it's pretty good. Oz, maybe you can give us a little bit of a more analytical idea of what we should be doing when we start a new campaign.
Yeah, exactly. I think like the idea that you have to have your objectives is great. I'm going to add to the objectives that you need to have KPIs, since we are data scientists and we are doing data-driven work, and you need to keep measuring your KPIs. I wouldn't say that there is a magic formula, because there are so many different variety of kinds of games, just like mentioned. So I think testing different ad networks, different creatives, kind of sampling a few of them is a good start. And after that, based on data, the next steps follow.
Okay, Lynn, do you have anything else to add to this?
I'm totally agree about the early phase. We have to focus on the market research, and we also really focus on the marketability test on the early phase to make sure that the idea will work. And that every game is different. This year is different with last year, and this month is different, totally different with the last month. So we have to, keep tracking everything's testing and tracking and testing and tracking, and also follow the plan to make sure that everything works.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the weird and interesting thing about the game industry is the speed at which things change can always make things a little bit difficult. We have a question from the audience. With all the current challenges and consolidation in the market, how can a small ad network still stand out from the competition? Is there some type of feature, service, or focus on the specific markets or format? I guess, Oz, I think yours would be a good answer, as you're using UI as one way. Is there any other ways that people are looking at if they're trying to grow their ad network?
Again, I would say to actually try the different networks for your game, because there's no magic formula, and look at it from a maybe incrementality point of view, like when you add that network, what's the benefit versus the other ones? You can actually reach the same user through the various ways.
Right. But what if you're the ad network? How can I, as an ad network, grow, we have all these other big ones. We have Vungle, we have the Iron Source, we have all these other ones, AppLovin. How can I, as a smaller one, grow up against these kind of larger competition?
I see. I'm not running an ad network. I'm running like our tool is connected. Maybe I should explain. No, we do AI-based campaign management. So we connect to all the different ad networks and the MMPs. We collect all the data, measure, predict LTV, ROAS, volumes, different key metrics, and then configure the ad networks. Bid, budget, and target ROAS, those kind of things.
Then let me ask a different question. What would be something that you guys are looking at that makes it more attractive as an ad network? Like if I wanted more people to come to my ad network using your product, what would be something that would attract them?
The performance. So the performance is all that matters. It's all the numbers. Like it's just the numbers.
Just the numbers. Lynn, you probably have a better answer. Or no, I'm sorry, Oz. You have a good answer, but Lynn, I think you might know a little bit more.
Yeah, I think as the publisher, we will not looking for just one ad network. Every ad network has their strongest and their weakness. So I do not think that is no problem as you are a big or a small ad network. Is that what's your strong point, and what you give to the publisher when they use your ad network? And we, as a publisher, we all combine as much as ad network when we do the user acquisition.
Nicholas.
So actually, I am a small ad network. So Scuti is a small ad network as well. So the answer to that is very easy. It's like anything else in life. You have to differentiate yourself versus the others. In the video gaming industry today, most of the ad solutions out there are the same. There's really very differentiation. What we do is we commit to publishers. For instance, yesterday on my presentation, I told every publisher and developer I will increase their CPMs by 25% guaranteed, right? That's my form of differentiation. How can I do that? Is because Scuti is the only ad network that actually rewards players. So it's built, it has a reward system that is fueled by brands. And because we have a store, a G-commerce platform, so now the publishers make money from commerce, right? That's a $5 trillion market. So now they're earning dollars on every transaction their player makes. And think of what advertising does. When you serve an ad in your game, you're effectively leading that player out of your game to somebody else's site to hopefully consummate a transaction. And the CPCs and the CPMs that are being generated by the video gaming industry today are the lowest in the entire entertainment industry. We've come in to change that completely. We have the highest CPMs. We guarantee the highest eCPM to every publisher. On top of that, they also make money from a transaction. If I buy a $100 pair of sneakers, a publisher will actually take home $7.50. Do you know how difficult it is to do an in-game transaction for $7.50? But everybody shops. So our platform is all self-contained and never takes the player out of the experience. It serves quality direct brands, which players want. And we know everything about the player because they volunteer their information. No cookies, no tracking. Luke, tell me the year you were born and tell me your gender, and I'll give you rewards for it. And you can use those rewards to buy products, or you can use those rewards to purchase in-game currency or any in-game items. That's how you do it. You have to differentiate yourself versus the competition.
Yeah, no comment on that. You're not going to get me any money from me. But no, I think the biggest thing from working with a lot of the ad networks is one is quality of your ads. I mean, that's a big question. People, if you're using an ad network where the ads are going to be of low quality, or people are not going to click on them because they're not of the quality that people would think they should be, they're not going to click on them. Also, I find also being more honest and fair. I think there was a lot of issues, especially a couple of years ago, where we had a lot of ad networks that were not completely true with their numbers. And there was a big controversy behind that. So I think there is a lot of things that, as long as people feel that they're getting a good value with good quality products or as advertising, I think people are going to start to levitate towards your ad network.
100%, and that's why curation is important. So you've got to understand who the player is, right? Do it in a way that doesn't infringe on their privacy, and you have to work with a system like Scuti's, right? I'm sorry, I have to plug myself every now and then, right? That basically goes direct to the brands, not through secondary marketplaces, and then make sure that the publisher's getting quality advertising directly with the highest CPMs. Why wouldn't you do it for the highest CPM?
Right. Okay, let's go to the next question. Lynn, I'll start with you. Where do you find advertisers are making the biggest mistakes that you can capitalize on?
About the mistake, I think it's about they do not sure what they're gonna do at the moment. About us, we divide the publish a game into 3 stages. The first one is marketability test. The second one is the retention test, and the third one is monetization test. Each stage you have different purpose. You measure different KPIs, and if you do not sure which step and which you want to do, so you can be confused and conflict about every step you do. I think this the maybe wrong way in the way people do advertise. They do not sure what they're gonna do.
Well, I think that's something interesting about our industry is that there's actually opportunities to test out in the field. I mean, I know like with a lot of like TV or movies, you actually have to have screenings, or you'll have to have people watch it and then behind closed doors before putting it out there. Here we can kind of just play around. Isn't that kind of true, Oz? You see that kind of thing happening as something that you can find your mistakes with?
Yeah, I think it's all about, like you said, like test, check your KPIs, iterate, optimize, continuous optimization, continuous to keeping track of the KPIs, and testing new things. Basically, that's, I think, what being success.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that you agree, Nicholas.
Yeah, for me, it's run your campaign across different mediums, right? I think a lot of them also make the mistake that they don't challenge themselves to find new opportunities, new ways in which to run campaigns. Everybody's sort of fishing in the same areas, right? That only does a couple of things. First of all, it drives your costs up, right? Because now you're all competing for the same audience through the same platform. But you've got to run, you've got to test, and you've got to continue to iterate. Just like you iterate on games, it's the same formula for your advertising campaigns as well. And frankly, I'll be honest with you, if I'm a game maker, I would never take advertising of another game. And I would also never take advertising that actually pulls my gamer outside of my game either. That's a big mistake. Not just to, you spend so much money in acquiring a user, now you would let the user leave your game. That is the biggest mistake. I've never seen that in 22 years history of game making, and yet mobile game makers do it all the time. It is the biggest industry mistake that's been made. Think of the cost of acquisition and then the cost of you losing that customer. And why would you ever let your player see the ad for another game? Never should you do that. I would never.
That's an interesting idea. I that is one of the things I've been thinking about is why having other games take you to other games. I mean, if it's just a crazy, unless it's the same company, like the Voodoo advertising another Voodoo game, I think.
Oh, 100%. 100%. Of course. You've got to cross, you know your players are eventually going to tire of your game. They're going to want to play something else. Always cross-promote your games. And that's another mistake. I don't see enough cross-promotion of the games. That's why, for instance, again, I'm going to plug myself on Scuti. All the game makers can list all of their games where players can actually know where am I going to spend my rewards, which games. These are all earned rewards, which games. So you'll always be able to cross-promote your portfolio of games. That's imperative.
Okay. Oz, I actually wanted to ask you a very interesting question about AI because a lot of people are talking about AI. I know that there's a couple of companies before that have tried to do AI within their advertising. Do you think that this is continuing to be the future where AI is going to be doing all the work for many of these advertisers? It seems like it's inevitable.
Yeah, I mean, AI is like the generic word, I would say, like the more hypey word, and machine learning is even more accurate. But yeah, basically, it can be applied to many things, not just the advertising in the game. Like the bots that are like AI-driven level designs, turn prediction, custom. You can apply to many things, and campaign management is an ideal use case for it, because you have to do a really good job, and there's a very big opportunity to basically optimize each network, country level, source app level. Just like Nicholas said, maybe you don't want like to show your ad in somebody else. I mean, you probably want, but they probably don't want. So there are many decisions that need to be made. And to make the right decisions, you need to look at the right KPIs, the right metrics. You need to predict your LTV, ROAS, and such metrics. And so this is a perfect problem for machine learning to do versus like a human.
Yeah, I've heard that there's some people who are doing tons of campaigns, like over 200 different campaigns. And for someone like that, I mean, I think it would be impossible for them to be able to continue to hold all of those and do day-by-day changes just by themselves. AI probably is going to have to solve those issues.
Yes, and there is like different levels, I would say. Like there's some basic automation. Like you can be as more granular if you are doing proper machine learning. Like you could be just optimizing things at the network level or country level, or you can go the combination and go even lower, and you can just get past data, or you can actually do predictions using machine learning. So that's where I think the difference comes to get the full benefit.
Yeah, agree. There's variety. So we use different varieties as well. And it takes a lot of the guesswork out of making decisions on media and really making the choices a lot easier because it's all automated. So for example, if you want to target a specific user, I want to target 18 to 34-year-old males. You know, a lot of brands, for example, will come to you and say, hey, I want to be in brand X or title X. I want to be in Fortnite. No, you don't. You want to reach gamers, right, or players aged 18 to 34 with this sort of mix between male and female that have a household income of X. AI basically cuts through all of that and it delivers the campaign through the right games. It measures all the gateways, and then the predictability is what we use as well, is if I bought this product, I may have a greater propensity to also buy this product. So the AI is going to display that brand because I fit all the parameters as well. So AI is key.
All right, well, let's go back. I have a different question. I think we've been talking, I don't know, yesterday I was talking to a lot of marketers, and they were very pessimistic about the future, which worries me, and that made me wonder, what are some of the fears that a lot of advertisers are going to have for the rest of this year? And Lynn, do you have any fears with your group about what's going to happen in the end of 2022?
I think the biggest fear is how we're gonna do to have the real time action with any change with the campaign. You know, with the ATT from iOS 14, there's this really big challenge for any marketer to adapt to it, to how to measuring the UA campaign with ATT. So it's not just about we have the experience, we have the data, but how we measure it with the early signal to find out, to predict what we gotta do.
That is going to be difficult. Is that the same fears that you have, Oz?
Yeah, actually, I mean, for us, it's more like we see the fear and we bring the solution. So the first step is how to use the scan values in the SKAd network optimally. I mean, it's very limited data. There are all these limitations, but you can, if you are looking at the game data itself, you can get the most out of this mechanism that Apple is providing. That's step one, to optimize things. So we actually that's not like our main product, but we help with customers when they need it to be able to correct the setup, because that needs to work so that we get the data to do all these optimizations. That's one. And the second thing that's kind of interesting, could be a solution, not to this aspect, but is like more organic uplifts and how to do like media mix modeling. Nicholas is probably very familiar with media mix modeling. When you are having less data coming, you can use these more, let's say, new versions of the old techniques. So instead of using like media mix modeling, you can use combine it with the newer machine learning techniques to get better estimations of the performance of different networks. So yes, the fear is there, and we are helping with the solution.
Nicholas, is this as big a fear as people are saying, or is this just another blip in the life of gaming?
Yeah, I don't look at it as a fear. I think it's all about understanding what lays ahead, right? And anybody that's intelligent or smart wants to assess what's going on out there. What I outlaid yesterday, for example, were the 3 components that were going to affect every brand as well as every game maker. First one, obviously, especially in the mobile space, is the ad constraints that the platform providers are providing, which I think are phenomenal. Anything that protects the privacy of a player is a good thing, right? But there are tools and ways around that. That's why we developed Scuti to begin with. The second thing is the global recession. This one is led by inflation, which means that in-game spending is going to be reduced because your discretionary income is going to be reduced. So you have to pay attention to that. So if you have a game that's relying upon in-game spending, you may want to introduce some form of advertising that benefits the player, right? And then at the end of the day, there's also going to be tighter ad spending by all brands, which is good because it just means that you want to focus on the things that are going to drive performance. And that goes back to iterating, testing, and making sure that you're getting the biggest bang for every dollar that you spend as well. So fear? No, there's no fear. It's just a matter of understanding what's going on in the marketplace and try and position yourself in a way that's better than your competition.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree. I think things are going to change a little bit, but it's not going to be as big as I think a lot of people are worried about, especially within the hyper casual. I think from what we've seen with the pandemic, hyper casual is going to stay. I think there were a lot of naysayers that were saying that hyper casual was going to end back in 2020, but it just kept growing. So I think this is going to be just a continuation. That's just my opinion, though. So let's ask. No, I think that one's not. Let me ask you, Nicholas, because you probably know this the best. A lot of companies are putting a lot of their marketing money into advertising these games. Where do you think they should be putting their money basically into? We had a lot of discussion yesterday talking about don't do banner ads anymore. No more banner ads. A lot of people are talking about video ads. That might be the best place to go. There was a big story about that today I saw. Some are going into playables, which is something that I did for a while, work with the playable ad networks. So what do you think is the place to be if you're going to be marketing the game?
Really good question. And I don't have hard set rules with respect to don't do banner ads, etc. That's always about choice. If something is effective and it's working and it's not pissing off the recipient of that ad, right? Then if it's working for you, then continue to do it. But obviously, look for alternatives as well. Our platform is all about rewarded ads, right? So I watch an ad and I get a reward. That is my favorite. Why? Because I've tested it amongst hundreds and thousands of players and they absolutely love it. I think you should always look out for new opportunities. If you've got a game, there's no reason why you shouldn't be using social media more effectively as well. Let the audience, let the community as well do the marketing for you. So you've got to have the social component as part of, it's a mix at the end of the day. You've got to have a channel mix and you've got to be looking at all the variety of different channels. And I know this is a plug, but at the end of the year, Scuti's going to have 100 million players through the games that are connected to the network. List your games for free, right? That's what the purpose of the network is. It's a network effect so the players can find, especially hyper-casual games, every hyper-casual game maker should be on it. It's free. And gamers go there to seek out games. So it's like having a GameStop, right, digitally, where they can find these games and use their rewards. But I'm all about rewarded play and rewarded ads. Anything that can benefit the player, thumbs up. The players love it, and they're going to engage with your property, and they'll probably give your game a shot as well.
So you have the same idea, or what would you think people should be putting their money into?
Again, as as I said before, I don't think there's the magic formula, but putting the money into multiple channels, multiple like networks is the way, I think.
Yeah.
And again, checking your KPIs, like the one that works for one game may not work for the other one. Underlying, they have different audiences, different competition, different things. Like, but data will tell you. You will see from your performance metrics that I'm not going to name names.
Right.
A is working better than B, so you should be using A.
Right.
So it should work that way.
Well, then let me ask you a different question for this. When should I stop testing and start building on what I've got? Like, how long should a test be? 1 day, 1 week, 1 month?
So the good thing is it could be continuously. You can always continue, and like tools like ours let you do continuously testing. I mean, let's not call it testing. In our case, it's more like exploitation. That's like a kind of always a trade-off. If you have some amount of budget, how much do you use it for? Exploring versus exploiting the channel that you actually found is very good for you. So our aim is to make this not a task. So let the machine do it, and you can just check the performance numbers.
I like that idea, talking about how it's exploration, not experimentation, which I think is probably a better term, I think. Lynn, is there anything that you think people should be putting their money into?
I think it's not just about the interstitial act, but also you want the user, you want the player to watch more ads, or you want them to do the in-app purchase. So that means you have to specify the player, and that's what we focus on the user experience, on the user, how they do in the game, how they feel fun with the game, and how they connect with the game. If they stay with the game longer, that means they make more value first, not even it's interstitial ad or reward or in-app purchase. So we have to focus on the user journey on our own game and make sure that it will last as long as possible.
We have a question from the audience. What do you think about interstitial ads' future? You were just talking about them, Lynn. Do you think publishers will still be able to generate enough revenue with it? What do you think?
I think interstitial ads is always a important part in the revenue, but I think just to make sure that the interstitial ad do not interrupt the player experience in the game. You know that people feel angry because just ad appear and they cannot avoid them, and just we want to make sure that where we put the interstitial ad.
Odds, do you have any other opinions about this?
I don't really have another one on this one.
Okay, Nicholas, is there anything that isn't Scuti that you could say about it?
See, I'm biased on that one because that's what our platform just invented, gamified, rewarded interstitial ads, right? So that's what we do. So why did we create that? Easy. They benefit the player. They reward the player. They never interrupt the gameplay. It's only done through level loads. And you should always ask the player, would you like to earn rewards, right? And if they say yes, then you show them the ad, right? So it's all permission based, and then they earn rewards and then they continue with their game. That will provide you greater retention because you're rewarding. It will never alienate the player because it was their choice. Choice is great. Nobody complained about having made a choice. So I am all for it. It is the future. That's why we created it. And I'll tell you right now, as long as it never takes the player out of their game, never. If you have an ad that's taking a player out of your game, it's the biggest mistake you've ever made as a game maker. Don't do it. So as long as it keeps the player there, rewards the player, and is permission-based, you have nothing to lose. And I'll tell you right now, just like I guaranteed before, it is the highest CPMs in the entire video gaming industry.
Yeah, that is kind of the weird thing where I'm asking for an extra life for my fighter ship game, and it tells me to go to another website to check out their shoes.
Yes.
It's a little weird. I was like, let me finish my game first, and I'll come back to you.
And Luke, you know what the worst ones are? The ones where they ask you to watch an ad for a minute, and then you try and X out, and it opens up the App Store not once, not twice, 3 times before you can continue with your game. And guess what? That actually happens. And we as a game maker, you force attrition. You force the player to abandon your game because it's not that they don't like your game; they don't like what you're doing to them with your advertising.
All right, let me go to the next question that we have, and I'll start with Oz. Oz, what are you thinking about daily when you're working with campaigns?
So basically, I'll tell what our algorithms are thinking about because they do it. Of course,
Right.
so our team is basically consists of like AI experts, of course, softwares, and also edtech gaming experts. So our algorithms are guided by the like gaming UA experts, but they are doing most of the thinking, and then there is the supervision. So it's like goes in a hand, like the machine and the I would say the team works together. So we look at so many metrics that I cannot count now, but at the end it boils down to the target ROAS, the ROAS, the LTV, how much volume you will get from each campaign at a granular level, because those should guide your decision on how to change your key campaign parameters. So we may be like on the very excessive side of looking at metrics because obviously we track them all. We do predictions and we do multiple predictions, like 7-day LTV, 30-day LTV, longer LTVs. Like we track them all, and depending on the game type and the campaign manager's goal, some of them become more important, and those become the ones that drive the decisions of how to change the key campaign parameters, like the bid or budget or target ROAS.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
No, I think it is. It's just interesting because I know from you're doing AI, so the daily task is probably already been set by the AI itself. So there really isn't really much of a daily requirement.
Well, we still check the overall, like we have our own dashboards and internal tools to see, is the AI working its job? Because if you do a proper AI system or a machine learning system, you should be checking the performance. For example, it's not the answer to your question, but we check things like how accurate are LTV predictions going. Like continues to check that. If there's a problem, we call things like model drift. If you have a machine learning system, you should be checking how accurate your models are working. They could drift for unknown reasons, like changes in the world or something. So you have to be keeping track of those. So one set of things for our product is these things. For the campaign, like I said, the key metrics get kind of summarized, and we still check them. And we have calls with the customers, maybe not daily, maybe weekly, and we have channels like on Slack and others also. If there's a question about some campaign management decision, we immediately go and look at why that decision was made, because our system shows all the reasoning behind it. Like if the bid was increased, why did it get increased? Because the LTV went up. Because that way you will get more volume. So we see all that.
Right. So it's just the AI is there to help, is there to do most of the work, but don't just let it do the work. You need to double check to make sure everything is working correctly. I'm guessing, correct?
Which we do, not the customer, but yes.
Yeah.
We do have a complete like auto cruise mode. I think at the end, the UA manager and the game publisher should have the idea of what the business goal is. Like, do they target 120% ROAS or 110% ROAS? They need to make a decision.
Right.
And
Yeah, and I remember you were talking about, like, for example, world things that are happening. I remember talking to one of my friends, and they were talking about how in Thailand, when they had a military coup, everybody went home, and all of a sudden, everybody was playing video games, and so the LTV, the values were going up very crazy, like because there were so many people
Yeah.
playing video games in that one day, and so it was an opportunity to take. So yeah, you're right. These things can happen. Major news things can happen. I know, like probably like here in China, we have Chengdu is going to be going into lockdown, so there probably will be a lot of game players in Chengdu. So it's an opportunity to check those. So yeah, that could happen. Lynn, what are something that you guys are watching that you think that advertisers should be watching daily?
I think, as you know, we have the latency, data latency. It may be a few hours, it's maybe one day, or it's maybe a 2 or 3 day. So we just not can wait 2 or 3 days till we get all the data to then do something. We need to check. As Austin said before, a lot of metric. We need to check them all and do the react immediately if something happen. And because we run a lot of campaign in a lot of ad networks, so we have to check them all to make sure that they do good or bad or anything happen. And maybe it's just a small action, like we increase the budget, or we will lower the one, or we increase the bid, something like that.
Okay. So Lynn, yours is all about checking the data. Oz is
Yeah.
more about checking having customer service and discussing
Yeah,
with the
right.
customers what's going on.
That's right.
Nicholas.
Yes, maybe they are crushed in the game and people are complaining about that. How about we deal with it? We need to contact the product team immediately and fix the crash problem like that.
So Nicholas, is there anything else other than talking with your customer service, making sure you understand what's going on, or checking the numbers? Is there anything that you would think daily advertisers should be looking at?
It's all about monitoring. So I agree with Oz and Lynn in terms of their perspectives on that. It's monitoring the metrics, monitoring the engagement. Players, if your players have a community and they're chatting on that community, make sure that you're monitoring that as well. But I'm also about fresh content, or just go out there and continue to test different ways to execute a message, etc. That's one thing that a lot of game makers don't do. They think a screenshot or a message works, but they don't test and iterate it, because message is key, because message is an emotion that it triggers, right? So test it. So just like you test everything else, you've got to continue to test. And so that's why, what Oz and Lynn are referring to is absolutely spot on. You can't just sit still.
Yeah, I can understand that. This is one of the industries, I think, especially in the entertainment business. We're all working in entertainment business where, we always talk about, in the movie industry, you always talk about the actor. Oh, what movie is he doing now? We don't talk about the 5 movies he was in the past. It's always, oh, what's the next thing? And I think in the game industry, it's a lot more, what have you done yesterday? Where it's not just what you did a year ago or 2 years ago. It's pretty quick. Do you feel that there's a lot of pressure with having to be kind of pushed with all of these things? I mean, we don't talk a lot about the home and work kind of scenario where we have a work life and our regular life. Is this kind of something that advertisers have to kind of face when they're working with these kinds of things? I think, Nicholas, you probably have had the most work in this.
Yeah, I think when I used to market and publish games, it was, I hate to say it was a lot easier. There are so many channels now, in trying to get people's attention, away from social, away from everything else that they have in their daily lives. It is more difficult. Thank God I'm not a publisher today. It's the challenges, and that's why you need, all the data around you that you can possibly get, because the data is going to it's now become such that the data is everything. You've got to have that data. You've got to know what KPIs you're measuring against, and you've got to be quick as well to be able to adjust. Didn't have to do that back in my day.
Do you feel that it's a lot of pressure, Oz, with your guys? I know you're kind of out there doing something that a lot of other people aren't doing, which is AI.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it pressure. Like, we know how to do it. So we had cases actually where, like, a change in the LTV, our algorithm can detect before like a person could detect, because we are like, it's machine learning, but it's like mathematically optimized. It's mathematically the best possible thing you can do in certain cases. So I think it's good. And actually, to tie in, as Nicholas was basically saying that you need to be looking for new ways. To me, that translated as maybe like more creative strategies, more ideation. So to be able to do that, that's where like using a tool like ours also helps. Like, even if like you are spending, actually we could ask Lynn, how much time does she spend looking at the data on different networks, maybe MMPs, and like putting the data together, making predictions or calculations and decisions. If all that could be either automatic or just looking at a list of suggestions and saying like a single click apply, I'm sure she would save a lot of time and more try to be more creative and ideation, like come up with new ways.
Lillian, are you having any sleepless nights, or are you still able to get back home at a reasonable hour?
I think each other work with are different, but the creative, when it's good, it will always work in every art that works. So we focus a lot on creative and creative strategy, how to find out which is the best, which performing the most. And thanks for AI, we can run the tests easier, but it will take a lot of time to find out which creative would work with good kind of game.
Actually, we are also starting like as we did, like our vision was to do campaign management with AI, and the first step was the campaign configurations. As a second part, we are getting into the creative management. So even in the creative side, like the same creative will not work well in certain geo or certain network for certain game, even the type. So even thinking about your benchmarks on just remembering what's the benchmark for a good creative for this game in, I don't know, Germany versus Japan is something to remember. Like, the UA manager or the advertising manager doesn't need to remember this. The tool should be able to show easily, look, these are the ones that are performing badly. You need to change these. And when you make a change, look, these are the ones that are working well. So give some insight on how to make the new creatives direction. But the ultimate creativity is, of course, in humans. But we can support it as much as possible.
Yeah. You have to use technology, because if you're not using technology tools, you're at an enormous disadvantage.
Yeah, I think that the tools is probably the biggest thing. We have a lot of big tools. Okay, well, we have about 10 minutes left, and I looked at our questions, and they all suck. I'm sorry I wrote them all up. Spoiler, I already wrote up all the questions. They all are terrible now. We've had so many better questions and answers here. So I think I'm going to do what I like to do, which is have each person think about a question they'd like to ask the other two people. I think this is actually a really fun opportunity where we get to pick the brains of some really smart people, especially when smart people ask other smart people smart questions, then everybody wins. So I am going to give you guys a few seconds to do that. And while you're doing that, I want to thank everybody, of course, for coming to the Hyper Games Conference. It's been a wonderful time, and I hope you've learned a lot in this time. All right, I think I've given enough time. Lynn, do you have any questions that you'd like to ask Nicholas and Oz?
Yeah, I think we discussed a lot about networks and how different each networks have. So, what do you think is the most important things you focus on as a network to help the publisher?
Let's go with Oz first.
Well, I think like what we recommend and what we believe in is to use multiple networks. And as you use multiple networks, as I said, like using the right combination with the right settings is the key. And I think that's my answer. So basically, when I talk to a like advertising person, our customer, like usually it's a UA manager, we ask them what's their goal for this game at the near term. It could change later. Now it could be like getting less users, higher profitable, later to expand it. And our solution does the rest and finds the right combination at the right settings. Nicholas, I guess.
Yeah, Nicholas, do you have any answers for that? What should an ad network focus on?
I think the way that I would go about answering that question is by if I'm sending a message out to publishers and game makers is to really focus on the thing that they know the best, and that is to make great games. And they should really be focusing on working with, because nobody knows everything. You should be working with experts, people that live through these battles every single day. They have the data. Like I have people ask me, how much should I charge for this sword in a game? I'm not an expert. There are experts that monitor that every single day that can give you that answer. So use secondary or external groups, third parties that can basically help you with your campaigns, because we can't do everything. As a publisher, you just can't. A lot of them think they can, and that's where they iterate and they make mistakes, and then you don't need to make so many mistakes. There's so much expertise in this industry over several decades. So that's what I would say. Just don't try to do everything yourself. Rely on experts, and definitely use technology to help guide you, because it is another very important tool set that and it's beyond just KPIs and monitor. There are certain things that you may be missing out on as well. So again, you work with experts that can sort of help steer you in the right direction in terms of what's most important for your game. Because I always believe great game makers should focus on making great games.
It's good advice. Is there a question that you have, Nicholas, that you want to ask the other two?
Yeah, we've all been in this industry for a while. I've been in it for 22 years. You see a lot of things and then you shake your head. I want to go back to how we started this off, because I thought it was really interesting. And that is, what are the biggest mistakes that you see that people should not be repeating in games, especially when it comes to advertising or publishing their games?
We kind of lost Luke, maybe.
Am I here?
Yep.
Hello?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, back. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Oz, gave you a little bit of time. What is the biggest mistakes that you've seen that you tell people don't do this again?
Actually, one of the biggest ones I see is kind of specific, but not using conversion values correctly with iOS. So not being basically, but we can generalize it and say not using the available tools correctly, because you need your MMP to be correctly configured for your to be compatible with iOS. And it seems so simple, but some game companies do a great job at this. Some of them don't get enough information. Some of them simply don't get any data. So this is one of the key things. And basically I'll generalize from that point and say using your tools correctly and using the right tools for your.
I would think that'd be a big thing, is not using your tools correctly. There's so many good tools, and I'll get to that in a moment if we have time. Lynn, what about you? What's something that you've seen that really don't do that again?
I think sometimes people forget about focusing on their own game. As Nicolas says before, that maybe you copy this idea, maybe you copy this mechanic, maybe you copy this or that, but you forget to look into your game and look into your user. So focus on that, how to satisfy your user, how to make your game fun. That maybe sometimes people forget about make your game fun. Do you yourself want to play your game?
Yeah, if I see another Kingdom, what was it? Another Three Kingdoms MMORPG game for the mobile, I'm going to throw up. There's just too many here in Asia, and it seems like I remember I used to work at a company where they would allow me to get to see new games that were coming out, and I'd be like, "Oh, this is great!" And so I'd download a couple of the games, and it was all the same type of MMORPG. But they all had like one small change, and it really, really, really annoyed me. It's like, where's the innovation here? Where's the excitement? But yeah, it happens in the industry. Lynn, wait, we have asked Lynn had a question. Oz, it's your turn actually, correct? Do you have a question for Nicholas and Lynn?
Let's see. It has to be about advertising, correct?
Yeah, would be the best thing, yes. You don't have to, but yeah.
So I'm going to kind of, Lynn reminded me that what do they think about Web3 and how that could change? Because I was going to say one of the mistakes I see kind of is that everybody is leaving what they are doing and maybe they are jumping on the Web3. And that's good for some people, but if they stuck to, maybe they would have gotten successful as well. So what do you think about Web3 in the advertising world? Or how will it affect Scuti and AdOne?
So Lynn, let's start with you. Web3 and the metaverse, NFTs. How do you feel about people moving on to that?
It's true. That is our future. People will move to that. But, because we have a new mobile game, but people do not forget the Switch, or the Nintendo things, or the PS5 things, and the PC things. There will a future that all the kind of game will work together. It's not something disappear. I do not think anything disappear.
So Nicholas, what do you think about the advertising in Web3?
I think it's really exciting in terms of where the marketplace is going. We have obviously through Scuti have prepared for Web3 because we have interoperable wallets. So anything that you earn in games today, the rewards that you get, you'll be able to take with you from one game to another, and also from one metaverse experience to another as well. So I think it's going to be really exciting, and I think where I cringe is when I see brands, buying up real estate. It's like, what are you talking about? Buying up real estate? Now, where's that crystal ball? So I think that games are going to lead it. There's no doubt about it. And we're going to see players migrate. Again, none of us has the crystal ball. People that are dropping everything and rushing into it. Yeah, I think that's a gold rush, and we all know what happens with gold rushes. So, I think, focus on what you do, but prepare, right, for the changes that are taking place. And the first component of that is interoperability. And I think the fact that players will have greater control and greater choice, I think is fantastic. I'm all for that. I think that's absolutely brilliant.
Oh, I guess we are out of time. I was just told by the moderator we're having to end it. So I want to thank our guest, Nicholas Legano, CEO from Scuti, Silahtar from UAhero, and Linh Nguyen from AdOne. Thank you so much for coming and watching us talk. And thank you guys so much for coming and sharing your thoughts. I hope you guys have a great time with the next group that you'll be listening to or the next speaker. So until then, thank you guys for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.